you're paid by magical internet money. You buy yourself
magic internet
coffee.
money.
Yeah. Like sometimes I forget about this. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? You know, like people say, like, oh yeah, I have to go to work in the morning. You have to come back. You know, office, whatever. Like, what? What is office?
And do you have any other insights into the other implications of what these sort of organizations can achieve?
Let's go back to MakerDAO's impact, I guess, or at least the vision, the idea of what this can become, right? If you look at the trends, we see that everything becomes digitalized nowadays, right? And MakerDAO's attempt is to digitalize money that can be used anywhere across the world, right? But the biggest implication here, let's think about this. It's the first time in humans' history, and at least in the modern era, you know, where we have an attempt in creating a currency that is not necessarily linked to a government. You know, it's not necessarily linked to the power of someone having authority to do whatever they want and use currency as a government instrument to manipulate other governments or incite, wars and so on, right? This is a first attempt in the 21st century to dismantle money from government. And this is scary as hell if you look at this approach, you know, because money and government is tied very closely. Like before government was tied to church, you know. Like look at the huge revolution that happened when church has been dismantled from the government in terms of, you know, society, culture, religion, and rules of society and so on, right? Now, look at the evolution when you imagine you're 1,000 years or 500 years in the future and you look back in the history in 21st century and see like, holy shit, in 21st century, money has been dismantled from the government. And how much change has happened since then? Like how much change has happened since church has been dismantled from the, you know, from the government as well. In this sense, you know, DAI it's in the front seat of this change, because going back in the characteristics, a very important characteristics of what DAI is that it's unstoppable, it is unbiased. And by unbiased, we mean that there's no button, there's no administration control in the DAI smart contract.
There's not a human sat behind a computer screen making a decision.
Or even an automated function script, you know, saying, oh, we have the ability to block someone's DAI in their wallet if we don't like them or the government tells us to. Because remember, there are other stablecoins out there who have this feature, like USDC, like Tether, and so on, right? Because what they do is they're not collateralized stablecoins, they're just issued stablecoins from the amount of dollars or euros in a normal official bank account somewhere. So they do have to comply with the regulations and the governments and so on, right? So if the government tells them, hey, I don't like Henry's movement of funds because I see that he moves a lot of Tether from one wallet to another, and he moves that Tether to, I don't know, to a bar that he likes, but we don't like that bar because that bar maybe has history dealing with drugs, whatever, you know, then your DAI basically, your account is shut down.
So comparing DAI to USDC, like USDC, I actually don't know this. USDC is like someone's got a bank account of $1 million somewhere, and they use that as.
It's all centralized. It's a company in US. It's Circle, I think it's called, which basically, you know, has great service. Like has created this company organization structure where it can basically deposit a bunch of dollars into a bank account and then issue one-on-one.
One USDC per dollar that it has in its bank account.
And IOUs in a way. Like USDC is an IOU to a dollar in the bank account in US.
Okay, and so then it has that like downside of if the government wanted to just shut it down, it could just close that building down, destroy the server, delete that bank account, and then USD is zero value.
Exactly, in that sense.
Interesting.
Right? DAI It's not. DAI is like it's truly controlled by the DAO and is backed by these collateral assets that are in the system. And look, like in case shit really goes down, even with the DAO itself, right? There's a automated feature out in the system where an emergency shutdown is initiated of the protocol itself. Once that emergency shutdown protocol is initiated, right, DAI cannot be more generated by anyone in the vaults, but that DAI that you have in your wallet can be redeemed in exchange for the assets that back it.
Yeah, with what you put in.
Exactly. So, like, imagine DAI goes crazy, shut down. You could come back to the protocol and exchange it back to ETH and maybe half in ETH and half in BTC, in Bitcoin, for example.
Okay.
You know, and then you get your pure raw, like, it's like you exchanging your dollar to gold. You say, fuck, I'm tired of.
Yeah.
Okay, like the U.S. government shut down, and you're like, okay, I have $20. Like, let me go get 1 gram of gold, I guess, or I don't know. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
and that wouldn't happen in a real world bank, right?
Right. With DAI, this is going to happen. So look at the implications of this on the global scale, on the global economy scale, because now you look at DAI, and DAI is like 10 billion DAI in circulation. $10 billion, now you look at small nation states in terms of GDP, let's say.
Yeah.
Or in terms of like the money supply in that country. But DAI is like the economy in the internet.
Yeah.
It's a global internet economy.
And that's kind of crazy, right? Because
so once
DAI exceeds the value of other economies, it's going to get to a point where people are using DAI more than they're using fiat.
Yeah, so look at the revolution that's going to happen if you think of in these terms. Okay, more DAI in circulation, then more DAI than some small states. Those small states, they will want a stable currency to use because their current economical model is just too small to be strong in that sense. You know, it's affected very much by the
it fluctuates too much.
Yeah. Like, you know, so usually like small states,
externally compared to other countries or compared to the US dollars. If you're like
small islands, they peg their money to the dollar actually.
Yeah.
You know? So imagine like a small island instead pegging their currency to DAI.
Yeah.
Right, or actually starting using DAI, right?
Yeah.
And slowly, this is what's going to happen because DAI, in this sense, is like a neutral, stable currency. It's
wasn't there a country
money
that started using a crypto asset as like a currency? Was that? Did I read that somewhere?
I think there are some islands that are up, like some small states that have like official documents saying that they accept currency as a legal tender in their state, right? So you pay with the fiat currency or the cryptocurrency in exchange as well.
I'm pretty sure.
I think Ecuador is one of them as well, recently. Yeah. But like in this sense, like DAI becomes this neutral currency where slowly the international trade will happen.
Yeah.
We live in a global economy nowadays. All the trade that is being done is done on the dollar mostly. And that's why you like usually have BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, trying to fight the dominance of the US dollar because US dollar is being a bitch against them, you know? So they're like, hey man, we're tired of this bitch. Sorry for my language. Like let's create our own like economical tool, medium of exchange that we can easily use as a neutral tool to be able to do trade within our own countries. You know? So imagine when international trade will slowly start being done with DAI. Woo!
and then the Maker coin holders.
Yeah, the Maker token holders would be like, man, I'll go to Mars because I'm good. You know, like I don't know, like.
We're hypothesizing, but it's a potential. Yeah. It is the potential of the technology that it
honestly,
can.
Like this is what excites me when I think about what's the potential, what the future potential of this. But this is a long road ahead.
Oh yeah, we're not talking 10, 20, 30 years. Maybe this is like hundreds of years down the line, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe 10, 20.
Petru's prediction 20 years.
it's very exciting, man. Really, like this is what still keeps me working for MakerDAO, like this excitement of the potential of this thing, because it's so neutral, it's designed so well, clearly has its flaws and so on, but it gets better. It's incrementally.
What would you say the downsides or the flaws are of the protocol?
We're still early days in sense of even the technology that makes the Maker protocol run. It's like, we have this innovative plane, well designed and so on, and we literally run on the recently released first jet engine, but the jet engine still has to be improved itself, for example, so we're innovating on our side, but we're like, hey, come on, jet engine developers, like make sure that this jet engine runs well, for example. So that's what we are with the blockchain technology now. Like the blockchain technology itself needs to scale, needs to allow scalability to happen faster. In that sense, that means that like more users to transact at the same time per second, for example, because that is the bottleneck in this sense. That if you think about this international trade, international economy using DAI, right? So there's a long road ahead in terms of just infrastructure building. Okay. Because like we see, like we're building the product and we're like, man, we have the product. This product can almost be used, but shit, we don't have the infrastructure where this product can actually thrive.
Okay, so what's sort of next then for the like DAI and Maker? What's coming next? What's the next steps for the company, if you're allowed to talk about that?
For the organization, well, it's hard to say because we in the end are a DAO, we're decentralized, so it's hard to come up with an actual formal document saying these are the next steps that we have to work on. It's more like a living organism. Think of a swarm of birds, maybe. Like you usually see, like where they all fly together and they form the swarm and they move.
Yeah.
Right. So like each bird is like a core unit where like one contributor in the DAO or one maker token holder, right? And like the direction of the DAO kind of always moves a bit here and there, but it definitely moves. With a general understanding of where things need to go, So like if you understand this perspective, and then what are the next steps? It's definitely the scaling in infrastructure, in adding more different assets to the protocol as well. In order to make DAI like super resilient against market crashes, you need to have different assets that are uncorrelated to each other in terms of value, right?
Yeah. Well, we kind of briefly mentioned NFTs. So do you want to just mention what NFT is and like how that's related to DAI and like the assets that you can like exchange for DAI?
So if DAI is a fungible token, that means that you can exchange one DAI token for another because they're the same. NFT stands for a non-fungible token. That means that with NFTs, you can create something unique that is just that thing unique and that's it.
So it could be like a physical object or...
Yeah, or it could be like a picture that you take with your phone. That picture is like that one picture and you're like, maybe that's the wrong comparison, but you're like, I want to make sure that this is the unique picture and I want to like add some sort of certificate proving that it's unique, even though it can be copied later, like copy paste, but you want to add a certificate saying that
that's the original one.
This picture with this amount of pixels and this amount of colors in each pixel, right, is unique.
Could you do it with like a chair or a...
Yeah. Like there are special companies that work with this as well, like bringing real assets, real world assets, chairs, anything, to the blockchain universe, right? By adding a token, an NFT to that asset.
Okay,
right?
So the way that I understand like an NFT works is that you have an asset, be that a chair or a picture or anything, and you can issue tokens against that asset.
Yep.
And then those tokens, like
they're non-fungible, so they're one of a kind.
Yeah,
right?
And those tokens can be owned by people, will be traded by people.
Yeah, so they're still sit in your wallet, right? Just like you have your cryptocurrency wallet, they can sit there, and you can transfer it to people as well. And that NFT token can represent anything. So lately, there's been this craze happening with NFT mania, with the whole NFT ecosystem, where a bunch of pictures are created and people love them and they're NFTs, and people can sell them for other assets, for crypto, for ETH or DAI, and they make a lot of money, right?
So like, what happens? What happens to the picture? Like, let's say I'm just looking at a chair in my room. Like, I make 100 tokens for my chair, and I put them onto the blockchain. Like, and 100 people buy one token each, but I've still got my chair. Like,
right?
Do they own my chair, or?
Depends on the conditions that you make, right? Like NFT is just this kind of certificate, but then, okay, think of the real world, legacy world. You have, I don't know, like you release a piece of art, I guess, and you release certificates, like licenses, let's say, but you write that down, like you make a contract in a way with lawyers and stuff, right? You say, hey, anyone who has a license to my piece of art, they can display it in their business, NFT in the end is just, it's nothing else but just a certificate, let's say,
it's like a contract.
Yeah, but in the code it's a smart contract, yeah, but like to explain it in other terms, like in layman terms, I guess it's just like a certificate where you say that a certain asset, that you put a link to that asset, right? Like in case of an image, right? You post an image, a link to that image where that image is stored, be it on a server or some other place, and say that this image with this amount of pixels, right, is unique because this NFT represents it.
Okay.
That's it. Clearly, you can make 1,000 NFTs representing the same image, but then that's a bit nonsensical in that sense. Like,
and I guess the value of the token is based on the value of whatever asset, the perceived asset.
It represents,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
You're not going to make much money if you just put a picture of your cat on the internet and say, "Oh yeah, here you go." Well, maybe.
Right.
But how does this like NFT idea, how does that relate to the Maker protocol and these like assets that we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, right. So with NFTs you can represent any assets that are not necessarily currencies, right? So imagine you have a piece of art that sits in your home that's worth millions of dollars. You're an art collector, right? And that's worth, like, if on the market, that's worth like a lot, right? So with the NFT is just a simple process, standard to, like, we use this word to tokenize that piece of art into the blockchain digital world. So the NFT is then this piece of information on the blockchain that represents your piece of art that sits on the wall. Then with that, you can easily then create all the necessary requirements to be added as a asset class in the Maker protocol that you can then borrow DAI from.
Okay, so let's say that I have a piece of art, and let's say it's a digital piece of art because that makes it a bit easier to comprehend and a bit more realistic. And I put a link to this digital piece of art on Dropbox. And I say, okay, here's an NFT smart contract. I'm going to release it. I'm going to release 1,000 of these contracts out into the blockchain, and if someone buys one of my coins, they have
your NFTs, you mean?
my NFT asset.
Yeah, just NFTs. Yeah, exactly.
They can then go into that folder, download the piece of art, and they can show it on the wherever they like. And then that asset, I'm going to value it at this, and then that's kind of how it works. And then if
and you buy it, but then if someone is up to buying it, great. If not, then
so then let's say that someone buys like 500 of my picture of my cat's NFT, and that maybe let's say that was $500 that cost them to buy that asset, to buy that NFT. then they can put that $500 worth of NFT onto the Maker protocol and get however much DAI back based on the collateral ratio and everything else.
Yeah, depending on the conditions set by the Maker governance.
Yeah. Okay, so
but preferably it would be nice if the NFTs would present different pictures and not the same pictures, because otherwise it would not make sense.
I was trying to like explain it to make sense in my mind, but okay, so that's actually how these like what did you call it, like non
fungible tokens. That's what NFT stands for. It's just an acronym, right? It's a non-fungible token, NFT.
And so that's how they kind of slot into this protocols.
Yeah, so NFTs are the gateway to bring, at least if they represent assets, right? To bring, not necessarily financial assets into Maker protocol, where DAI can be borrowed from. So look at the art world. The art world is huge, man. It's valued at trillions of dollars, right? Imagine if you tap into that market, and for sure MakerDAO will, right? Because its goal is for DAI to become resilient.
Yeah, so the more diverse assets are on the protocol, the more resilient it is. It's like a portfolio, right?
Exactly that. So, like, say you have such a strong, resilient stablecoin, it's backed by different assets that even, imagine if the whole crypto economy crashes, but DAI is still king and strong. Because let's say it tapped into the art market, and art market brings trillions of dollars into the DAI economy, and that's valued a lot. Or it's DAI, where DAI can be backed by gold. Imagine, like, many people have tried to tokenize gold, right? And you can generate DAI from gold, and you have the same as 100 years before. You can get.
So basically, it just allows you to tokenize like anything. It allows you to tokenize any asset you have. You can tokenize it.
Well, yeah, but
it still needs to be approved by the
token. If you have interaction with the real world, then you have to interact with the real world's institutions who actually allow you to do this. And this is another tricky question that is not disregarded, but it's looked frowned upon. Because the ethos of crypto up until now was fuck the government, fuck the money system, we are us, we don't give a shit about anything. But, if, let's say, this is my vision, or others, MakerDAO participants as well, to have DAI become this global, international, neutral currency, right? Then for it to reach this level of supply, of this level of scalability, of adoption, somehow you have to tap into markets that are not crypto. You have to tap into the real world where a lot of more value is available. So in order to bring that value into this MakerDAO ecosystem, to this crypto ecosystem, you have to create these bridges, you have to create these channels into the real world through actual companies, through actual signed contracts between lawyers and so on. So then the question is, how the fuck do you actually do it? If Maker, everything is decentralized and is crypto and anonymous and pseudonymous, or how the fuck do you do it? So thank God of the in Maker Improvement Proposals framework. Through this MIP framework, you could theoretically create core units that directly handle only this thing.
Okay.
Work with specific institutions in specific nation states, US, Russia, Europe, Spain, England, whatever, right? Where they can tap into these markets and create legally binding contracts, right? Where
real world assets
can be channeled into this digital ecosystem and represented by NFTs released by this core unit that represent those assets and are legally binded. So those NFTs are actually represent some real asset and not just a picture on the internet that's worth hundreds of millions just for the sake of it, and then that thing actually can be entered into MakerDAO and actually present the real asset from the world. And once those channels are opened, my friend,
Yeah, so
it has exciting as hell.
Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that it has a lot of applications, and it has
insane.
A lot of growth possibilities for the future.
Yeah, it's like there's so much work to be done. There's so much work needed to be done, and where we are now, we're so at the beginning yet. But like this vision is so powerful that I stick around. I like it. Like it gets me excited just to know that I'm part of this, and make sure that I contribute as much as I can and say that, hey, that was me who helped doing that. Like, I'll be happy to tell my grandchildren about that.
Brilliant. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up there. We've done almost 2 hours.
Now I understand how Joe Rogan does the podcast, huh?
Maybe I'll tokenize this podcast.
Yeah, fuck yeah, do it.
All right. Well, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
For sure. Like now I haven't discussed about again the potentials of this a long time with anyone, and now talking with you again, like it sparked again my extreme excitement about this. And the applications are limitless because like it's natively digital, and you can apply it and integrate it in everything, man. Everything where money can be used or will be used in the future, you can apply this thing, and NFTs or anything else that will pop up, Like playing games, imagine like you play a game and you play, like I play a tournament with you in any fucking game, And they're like, oh, let's put a bet, let's put 50 die each, yeah, sure. Like that die is fully integrated right away. And we don't have to do it like outside by ourselves with mobile pay,
Yeah.
Like it's in the game and like it's just a fully whole new world,
Yeah, the potential is limitless, right? And that's why I think it's interesting as well. So yeah, hopefully that comes across in the audio.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, thanks very much for coming on the show. Maybe we'll have you on again, or maybe
yeah, sure. If
we can do another deep dive into to some other aspect of Maker or crypto or something like that in the future. But
that's good to me.
Really appreciate it, and I guess we catch you on the next one.